What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Space Engineers. When we left off in the last episode, you can see this little fleet I've got going on. I probably should go back and actually clean out a bunch of these because, yeah, they're just going to take up more simulation space and frame rate stuff. Though, it does greatly impress me with what my system can handle, thinking that I can comfortably have this many ships flying around, and it doesn't bat an eye at it, so that's kind of cool. According to OBS, we're running at a solid 60 FPS, so having this many small ships and stuff going on is pretty cool. Last episode, though, we were working on the ATR, the Atmospheric Transfer Ring, and it's coming along pretty well, I think. There's a couple of things I need to test, though. I took this guy out for a spin after the last episode, and I pasted it down on our base and tried fly back out. And I was surprised at how well it functions in terms of it hovers and doesn't get like pulled down to the ground, even when I disabled the void thrusters on the actual ship and stuff. So it works actually pretty decently. The one thing I want to test this episode on, though, is twofold. One, I'm going ahead, I've made a save backup of this world, but I'm going ahead and filling in the actual ring itself to be more finished. And once I get that done, we'll have a pretty good approximation of the actual weight the ship's going to be carrying when it's under load, or whatever you want to call it. I do have an issue here that I gotta figure out how I want to fix, but I might just kind of taper it into the rest of the ship. I mean, not the ship, the ring, like just bring it down in there, and I may not mess with it too much. In fact, I might even just cut it off, I guess, and just change it around. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna play around with that a little bit. But I want to see what it does with the weight, and I also want to switch it over to survival once it's pasted in and stuff to actually check and see if the hydrogen tanks are full, then how much hydrogen does it actually take for us to get up out of the atmosphere. Now, with that said, there's a couple of things that I got from the comments, which was that for the most part, you mostly need downward and forward thrust, one to fight gravity, one to get out of gravity, which makes sense. I do like having the forward thrusters for coming back in, that you wouldn't have to fly in backwards kind of thing. You could just fly straight in and it would slow you down. I also realized, let me grab this guy over here to show what I'm talking about. I also realized that I was thinking of flying like this and stuff like that. And it hovers this way with the 4 vertical thrusters fairly nicely. But I do think it was smart from what was told to me in the comments, and I had already kind of tested it and found this myself, is that for launching, I might leave it docked this way, but when you lift off, then before you launch, you'd actually rotate and go forward, up like a rocket kind of thing. It was actually recommended that if I was going to do it that way, to just dock them like this. I don't think I'm going to do that. I just don't like how it looks. So I'll probably dock it this way, and then all you'd have to do is vertically lift off and then just tilt around to a rocket direction and go forward. So yeah, there's that. Another suggestion that I got, and I don't know if this would have been referring to a mod or not, but the idea proved sound enough, is the idea of putting a window in front of the spotlight. So I'm going to see if I can pull that off. I don't know if I have a 1x2. Yeah, we do. 1x2 slope. I don't know if the collision box will work or not, though. I honestly don't think it will. Oh, is this not for small? Oh! Well, that sucks. I might have to do a mod then. But still, excuse me, still, the collision box is right there. So I don't know if it would work or not. Oh yeah, actually it would. Because it's letting me place something right there. So that's not the collision box, that's the box for the camera. And it won't let me put it on the spotlight, but it'll still let me put something there. Okay. One easy way we could have checked this, actually, is to put... I can't do a ramp. Wait a minute, that's not available? Oh, we use the two-pieced ramps. Okay, hold on, let me see if I can find... There we go. So we could actually do this and put one there. So I might have to throw in a mod to do glass there. I don't think I can do that here. Nor would you really want to. I'm going to put glass in front of the chain guns. That was a derpy moment. Alright, so on that note, let me fix this up, and I think then we're going to do some test flight stuff and check out how it works in survival. Alrighty, so here's what I have so far. For the most part, I think it's pretty close to being done, I think. I changed around some of the bottom a little bit. I inset the connector a little bit just to give it a little more wiggle room. I took the mag lock back out, and I replaced it with these small mag lock cube block type things. And I think that'll work a little bit better. It gives it a bit more, I don't know, I guess some more stable lock-on points, but for the most part it was just that this was a 3x3 and I couldn't make this little bevel shape in here with that there, and I thought it needed that. It was just kind of a block. I also added, I might need spectator mode for this actually so that we can get inside the ship. But I also added, we had a reactor over here, and it was literally just because I needed power, but then I thought it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have a reactor here. So I went ahead and connected it through conveyors and lined it up there and there, so there's two backup reactors, and then I put two batteries in here as well to kind of power the thing. And then as you can see, we did the slope blocks. Okay, my lights are still on. We did the slope blocks on the inside and kind of covered up the hydrogen tanks a bit better. I created this kind of shape here. I'm not really sure what kind of shape it is. It actually kind of looks like a Superman symbol almost. Wasn't on purpose, just kind of following the form of what I had to work with and what it would do. And that seemed to go okay. And then, like I said, I closed in on this side. We left the two blocks on the side exposed, though tanks, though I did fill in what I could of the connection points so that you can't, like, see down and in there, really. It's kind of closed off. We do get this a little bit here where there was certain spots where there isn't armor blocks under there, so the textures don't quite connect there, but I think that's a little minor gripe. It's not a big deal. Also, I couldn't make this a slope because technically that is in the collision box of the hydrogen tanks, so it wouldn't let me put anything there. The only thing that I thought about doing at this point is adding one more armor edge layer here in slopes. To give it more of a curved look on the inner and outer side, and I may go ahead and do that real quick and see what I think. I might just make a copy of it. I also cleared up the rest of the space, so I think I'm going to make a copy of this and maybe add an edge ring to this and see what we think about that. Alrighty, so I gotta say I really like this a lot better. It should be the same on the front and the back. The lights just don't seem very bright today. But in case it wasn't obvious, we added this little edge here that gives it a nice, I think, a more curved circular look. I did have a bit of a problem right here. Excuse me. Here. I'm not really sure if there's a better way to do that or not. I don't think there is, so I think it's best just to leave it. The only thing I can think of would be to do maybe this. That could work, and then leave it like that. I don't really know. I think it worked okay just to have it blend in to the edge and not do that. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that one. I almost think, it sounds weird because normally I'm not a proponent of it, but I almost think I like that better. I think it's because up here it does that, it just flows through, so it looks like this part's just kind of set on top of it. So I think I like that better. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that. I think I'm calling an executive decision there. I think I just like that better. But I think now I don't know what that'll do in terms of weight, because we added a whole nother layer on top of the existing layer, which was like this guy, and I didn't really remove all that clutter. I just put this on top of it. In theory, it's extra armament or whatever, but in practice, it'll be more weight for the ship to carry. But overall, I like it. Now, I will say I was going to add a jump drive to the bottom area in here, kind of like how I had the batteries there. I was going to throw a jump drive in there, but without mods, we can't actually do a small ship that has a jump drive. I did not know this. So we might add a mod later if we want to, or I might make a separate ring like I talked about before. This could be an atmospheric transfer ring, and then I could make a large grid version or something that uses less blocks, and that would just be like jump drive, jump drive, jump drive, jump drive, battery, battery, that kind of thing. Which may end up being a better idea. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I think I like this, and other than a paint job and naming it, I think we're pretty close to done. With the exception of... let me know what you guys think about this, too. I'm really debating undoing all of these ramps that are the Uncle Stees, or Stays, or however you say that, and doing it with the vanilla grid ramps, just because these don't actually have the merged textures. And I'm kind of thinking that I don't like that they don't have that. Now, back here, in this little hindquarter area, I have to use these two blocks. They're the only thing that make that shape work and fit. So, I can't undo those. But, I'm thinking of undoing the other ones, in all honesty. And in fact, I don't know, I might do some off-camera tinkering, but I might be able to use a shape like this here. And this here, where you have a little bit of a squared off edge, but I might be able to duplicate that up here and not need these at all either. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it. I'll have to see if I can kind of match that shape or not, because I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what happened here that forced me to have to do this when I didn't have to do it down here. Other than this flattens off, and this does not. That's probably what it is, that this doesn't flatten off. So I'll probably have to keep these two. But I am highly thinking about doing... Well, I don't really know. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I might be able to do the inverted ones and just bring it out to here. But then that wouldn't line up. So I probably do need to leave that there, and probably just shouldn't tamper with it. But I am thinking of converting these, just for uniform's sake. And I might make a copy of it and try that. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this guy right here. And then I'm basically going to fly down to the base and paste it and have it docked. I might just have it, like the landing gears, I might just have it docked, kind of thing. Actually, I'm going to tinker with some things and name some things a little bit so that everything's kind of squared away. But then we're going to switch over to survival and see how she flies and if I have enough fuel. Okay, so I might have fibbed a little bit in that we're not down on the planet yet, but I did go ahead and take the time to redo everything with the standard blocks. I think it looks a lot better. The other, not only the connected texture part, but actually the color. If you look at this guy, you can kind of tell that this gray and that gray, it's not that they're a different color, but the shading doesn't quite match the same. This ends up looking lighter than this looks. And actually, I'm curious if I were to select black, I'm wondering how this would look compared to this. So it's not drastically different, but it is a little bit different. The color's a little bit sharper or darker on the modded ones, and this one has a little bit more of a duller kind of look to it. So I'm kind of glad that we found a way to redo it all in vanilla blocks, and I'm going to eventually paint it and stuff as well. However, I did change this right here, and I'd like you guys' opinion because that's the only part that actually needs the mod. The rest of these are basically just the single block version of the 2-block vanilla alternative. So I replaced all of those with the vanilla ones, and I think it blends a lot better. However, as you can tell, I changed this corner to do kind of something similar to what I did down here, where it just kind of cuts off. And I'm not sure, I don't personally think I care too much, surprisingly. I kind of expected that to be more like of a dramatic deal. But I think although this connects, the shape is still sharp enough that it still kind of catches your eye. And since we've done that down here and stuff anyway, I don't really think it matters. So let me know what you guys think. I have backup saves right before I changed that part, I believe. And I could always just go back and add that block in there. So let me know what you guys think about that, because I'm honestly thinking I'm not too worried about it, and I might just keep it as vanilla, and that way it's one less mod that we have to include for putting it on the workshop and stuff like that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab this and take it down to the planet and switch over to survival and see if we can make it out of the atmosphere with any fuel to spare. Alrighty, so we are on the planet now, and I switched over to survival, and I also gave it a very simple basic paint job, and I'm just kind of playing around with some stuff. So before the thing runs out of gas, let's go ahead and jump in. Let me actually turn my lights off so that I'm not using more power, and let's see what we've got. So I think running on battery, I have my void thrusters off and everything, so all we should have to do... let's actually turn these batteries on as well. So the batteries up top here should be on. Not that it really uses that much power. And do we have a hydrogen? I think that's for... I think that's on the bottom. Right? That's for the whole ship. Should be. Okay, so I need the merge cubes, which are here. So let's go ahead and unlock them. Oh, hold on. Now this is interesting. In creative mode, this was enough to hold me up. And I'm getting that weird thing again where it hovers and it's fine, but if I hold space then I go down. I don't know why that happens. It was explained to me before. I don't personally understand it. So let's see. I don't really fully understand the implications of like how... Oh, we're burning through hydrogen fast though. I don't know if this would be enough. I might have to find a way to put more tanks in this thing. I don't know, it depends on if it decreases the amount of hydrogen used, the less resistance it has to fight. If that's the case, we might be okay. If it's a flat consumption rate, oh no. Because we're still in 0.8 gravity, so we got a ways to go. Huh. Well, I'm just gonna hold the button down and see what happens, because we might have enough, we might not. I don't know. Yeah, so we're gonna have to test this a little bit. I might do... Nah, I'm just gonna cut it. I was gonna do a time lapse. I might just cut it. I'll be back in a second when I run out of fuel, which might not be very long. Alrighty, so that's about how long it goes. We're at 0.42 gravity. We're still flying away. Now here's an interesting... Wait, no. Nope, nope. I think I'm getting pulled back down now. I was thinking we were going to go into like an orbit, but it's looking... Technically I'm going further away from those nodes, but... I'm getting closer to these. Yeah, so I'm dropping back down. So 0.4 is not enough to get out of the atmosphere. Now, in theory, I mean, there is always the option of turning on the void thrusters, which seem to be able to do just fine, but that's kind of not really the premise of what we were going for. So, I guess we'll have to work on this a bit more and find out if there's other ways to get more hydrogen in here. Alrighty, so we're back in creative mode for the moment, because I had to do some redesigning, as you can tell from the missing thrusters. This is kind of the finalized version, I think. We're going to test it out here in a second and make sure that it actually, you know, works the way it's supposed to. But this is kind of the gut version. So I stripped off the side panels and did some redesigning. So I added another tank here on both sides. So that's 2 extra tanks. And then I did the same thing down here. So that's 4 more tanks, which should help with the overall amount of hydrogen. I also changed the vertical lateral thrusters, this up, down, left, right, to small ones, because if I did my math right, about 5 small thrusters are the equivalent of 1 large thruster, but they take up a less profile, as you can tell here. And they do about 82,000 if the wiki is still up to date, because that's where I checked it. They do about 82,000 thrust, or can push about 82,000 kilograms of weight, give or take, depending on how you're doing the math. And the large ones do about 400,000, or yeah, 400 I think is the small ship version. The large one I think does 8, I think, or 6, I don't remember. But anyways, if you look at our weight profile... Oh wait, let's grab the full one, because this has more armor blocks on it. We're sitting at around 216. So theoretically, 1 thruster is enough to push us forward. Now, as for that spacebar thing, I've Googled it, and I know everybody usually gets on my case about physics and atmospherics, because I really don't know much about it. But it's a glitch. It's got to be a glitch, because I've pasted, like, I'd copy and paste it, not change anything, get in it, that one works, this one doesn't, that kind of stuff. Not to mention, as you can tell, this is hovering. Let me actually... Let's grab a copy of this one real quick, because I don't actually want to disturb that one over there. Now, at the moment, I think the void thrusters are on, so that's not a good read. So if we turn the void thrusters off, we're still hovering. I'm not descending. Now, this isn't about fuel consumption and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's not descending. But when I hit spacebar, then it descends. That does not make sense, because now you should be activating the small thruster, right? Now, here's the weird one. If you get going, sometimes I've had it where there was even one that mentioned if you put your nose above the horizon line, that it could then go upward. Actually, no, here's a better idea. Let's test this out. I've already got this copied. Here's a fun little fact if you don't know. Where am I here? In spectator mode, you can use the scroll wheel to go faster, right? So we're out of gravity now by far. We'll zoom it back down. But if you hit Control Space, you'll actually bring your astronaut to the spectator. I just learned this recently, and it's very, very useful. So let's paste this out here. Now we're in space. This is really the test kind of thing. Now we're in space. We're using hydrogen. I have my void thruster... Oh, they are on. Let's turn those off. So our void thrusters are off. Now I'm going to be looking at the planet to give us a frame of reference. And in theory... Of course, now it works. Wait, is it working? I don't really think I'm going anywhere. I'm not really sure, to be honest, if this is proving my point or disproving my point. The way the cockpit's moving makes it look like it's fine. But I really don't think it's an actual thing. I don't think it's supposed to work that way, if I'm being honest. I really, really think that it's a glitch. My gut tells me it's a glitch. Mainly just because if the thruster can idle and be excuse me, and be fine, there's no logical reason I can think of as to why it wouldn't be able to then lift. That's the part that's silly to me. Like, right now, you're fine. It's floating. It's fine. But then when you lift off, now it goes down. And it's like, it just doesn't make any sense. Especially, here's another example. If you hit C, you'll notice up at the top, the downward thrusters go off. But when you hit space, you just go down. It does not make any sense. I don't get it. But anyways, as far as force goes, I believe we have enough. Wait, why? What's going on? Okay, that, again, doesn't make sense. I'm going down now. See, this is what I'm talking about. I did the math. These thrusters, more than enough to move the ship forward. And it descends when you hit W. That... Oh, now we're going up. Now we're going up. Holding the spacebar. I'm so confused by this. It makes no sense to me. Oh, now we can do it. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, I'll admit to being terrible at physics and atmospherics and stuff. I'm bad. But this just doesn't make any sense. It just don't add up. I don't get it. And it's been explained to me before. I remember people telling me about it, like, this is what's going on. It still doesn't add up to me. It still doesn't make any sense. Here's one example why. At one point in creative, the same setup worked fine. And then when all I did was switch to survival, and now it's back and forth doing this thing. But before I adjusted any thrusters, it was still doing this. It just doesn't make sense. Alright, so what I'm going to do, we're going to leave this here. I'm going to turn on my void thrusters, and we're going to switch this save over to survival, and we're going to test this out for fuel-wise. Not so much the weird lift stuff, but the fuel. So give me just a second to switch things over. Alrighty, so I switched this over to survival, so let's get going, because it looks like the hydrogen's already going down. Let's get to going. Weehaw! And you'll also notice I'm not being drugged down at all at this point. I would like to point out. While we're doing this, I don't actually know. I've heard different theories on how you're actually supposed to exit the atmosphere and how to do it with efficiency and all that kind of stuff. We're just gonna kind of do it and see what happens. I'm not really too worried about doing it the efficient way. This is mostly testing fuel efficiency to where do I have what I need. Oh crap, the void thrusters have been on the whole time. I thought I was moving a little fast. Uh-oh. I might want to retest that actually, because I could use void thrusters. I don't want to. I want to make sure that the ring itself can do it without drawing on the rest of the ship. I think we're doing pretty good, though. But I've heard stuff like not running at 99 meters per second will help, and, you know, throttling down, doing override stuff, and decreasing, and blah, blah, blah. I've heard different things that would help. But I think this is a much more improved version, and I think we could probably rubber stamp it here in a second. Because as long as we get somewhere close to out of the atmosphere entirely, I'm looking for the physical gravity to be at 0 when we call it quits. But I'm looking also that our fuel is somewhere in the 50 to 25% bracket, because the idea was this could take you up to space, but then could take you back down. And while you could just use inertia dampener, or turn off your dampeners and just let it coast in, and then at the last minute, you know, fire a burst to slow yourself down, so you don't really need to fight gravity as much coming back into the atmosphere as you do going out. So, but we're doing pretty good so far. So I think this is a keeper version, I think. Though I might want to do one more test off camera before I rubber stamp it, of making sure my void thrusters are off before we fly back out, and see what that does. Now, one thing I wanted to address though is, for all of you guys that are probably going to comment and tell me why the things are doing what they're doing, the reason that I'm almost 99% sure that the vertical thrusters moving down is a glitch is because, in theory, like physics, I'm not necessarily saying it's a glitch in that the game is misbehaving, as much as if this is actually the way the game is coded, it's coded wrong. And this is what I'm talking about. In theory, when your thrusters are at idle, they're producing less thrust than when you push the button to do something. So if it can idle, it should lift. I'm not talking about if you get in your ship, you go to fly up, and it just descends no matter what you do. Even when you let off the keys, you still descend down. That's different. I'm talking about if you're doing this as a, like, if it's idling, which it was. All of my ships have just been idling. None of them have pulled down and crashed. But as soon as I hit the spacebar, the ship goes down. That physically makes no sense. That's kind of one of those, even if physics dictates whatever, if the thrusters have enough thrust to lift the ship against gravity while they're not being activated, when you activate them, you should get more thrust, not less. So that physically makes no sense to me whatsoever. It doesn't make sense at all. This is doing okay. I am a little concerned of how long it's taking to get fully out of the gravitational field, though. I'm not sure, because this last little bit of gravity is taking forever to break free from, and that's some of the stuff that, like, in terms of physics, I don't really know enough about to know why that's the way that it is. I do think this works, and like I said, as long as we have enough hydrogen in there that we could connect to this, use the void thrusters, push forward, turn the dampeners off, turn your void thrusters off, coast in, and then before you crash, burn, and die, you have enough fuel to set off a burst or something, you know, then maybe this will be enough. I could also, once we get going, I could disable the vertical and lateral thrusters, maybe. I don't know if they consume hydrogen on their own. I could also do it, this is just a straight hold the W key until you're out of the atmosphere. I have read multiple sources online that say that's not the most efficient way to do it, that you can cut your hydrogen use in half by doing it more practically and using overrides and walking yourself back down and stuff like that. So overall, I think this will work, but the technique of leaving the atmosphere, I'll probably have to test a bit more and find a better way to do it. The other thing is, I know that there's also scripts floating around for atmospheric transfers. I haven't tested any of them, I haven't used any of them, but in theory, there are actual scripts for automating leaving the atmosphere that'll probably do it more efficiently and blah blah blah. So we could add a programmable block and do it that route, and if that's the case, let me know what you guys recommend. Looks like we're about out of fuel though. Now, out of curiosity, so we're out of fuel, but I wonder how long she'll coast. But see, the fact that we're slowing down and we don't have any thrusters on does say that gravity's still kind of affecting us. Maybe. Oh, we just broke it. We just broke it. So now if I turned on my void thrusters, we would stop immediately. Okay. And then, let's see, we could go through here. We turn the battery on the ring off. Turn that off. I guess is that thrusters? Yeah, that's thrusters. Turn your thrusters off. You really wouldn't need to. I would want to leave... Wait, did I turn the batteries off? If I turn the batteries off, how is this thing powered? The reactors and the batteries are off, but they're still powered. Weird. Alright. So I guess we'd leave the batteries on, because we need to be able to leave the merge block on to reconnect with it. Unless we just wanted to leave it floating out here because it's dead, but that kind of defeats the purpose. So... Wait a minute. Why is that not unlocking? Oh, that's the bottom one. Okay. So unlock. Oh, is this set up to be... I don't like that. Oh, we'll mess with that later. So yeah. I think that would work. We'd leave the connector on, and then we'd go on to this side. We have our batteries on and everything. That's ready to lock, but not locked. So then... we turn the I don't know why I had the nanite system on, actually. So we have our void thrusters on, so then we should just be able to detach, and then we can fly away and go about our merry way. Whee! Ship actually does move pretty well. The only thing with this is I did kind of accidentally set it up to where it's not really a one... It's not a equal direction. You have to go... because the connector's in front and the merge block's in back, so you kind of have to go the way that it's set up. So then, with this still on, assuming the battery lasted long enough, we could turn the merge block on, and snap. Thank you. Connect that. We can turn the nanite machine on to fix whatever damage is done, and we're good to go. So, now here's another interesting one, talking about glitches. Nothing will work after merge blocking, after merging sometimes. I don't know why, but the gyroscope won't turn, the thrusters won't work, nothing will work. I get out, and then it works. Why? I sense it makes none. I don't get it. Now we have battery... for kicks and giggles, with dead weight, I know the void thrusters are pretty strong, so let's actually point towards our base. I'm going to turn off the dampeners, and I'm just going to let her coast in. And then see if the void thrusters could handle this if they didn't have... if I actually had a dead ring where there's no hydrogen. But overall, I like the style of it. I like the idea, I like how this works. I think it's just going to be mastering entry and re-entry kind of thing, or leaving the atmosphere in order to preserve as much fuel as we can, but then I think it'll work. But I still don't get some of the glitch stuff behind, you know, not being able to hit the space key and stuff. So let's do one last little transition thing real quick, and then we'll wrap this episode up. Alright, so at this point... we're starting to drift a little bit, so I don't think I can coast anymore. I'll turn my dampeners back on so that we don't fall, basically. But the void thrusters do seem to be enough to handle the dead ring and bring it back, so we wouldn't have to just leave it out in space if we didn't want to. But in case anyone wasn't sure, is like, well, if the void thrusters work, why the heck are we using a hydrogen ring? It was essentially to save power for the fighter, so it didn't have to burn all that battery life flying up there. But yes, it can do it on its own, and if I turned on the void thrusters with the hydrogen ring, I have no doubt it would be able to make it perfectly fine, because I think the actual fighter by itself can probably make it out of the atmosphere just on its void thrusters, but I've already shaved off about 2 or 3 hours on the battery life doing that, or flying in this way. So having to have your dampeners on and activating the thrusters and not just coasting in the whole time, that'd be another story. Ooh. Did I mean to do that? Are you okay? You're okay, right? Yeah, you're tough. So yeah, I'm dubbing this a success because the only things that aren't really successful has been what I'm assuming are glitches and stuff. There is one other thing I want to look at before we wrap up, but I'm going to do that in creative, and so I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to mess with, I've been playing around with this a little bit. I made a copy of this one so it was exposed and I could mess around with all this different stuff. And I still just can't make any sense of the thruster setup. If it's not a glitch, I think it's just incorrectly coded because, here, like I said, if we add more thrusters, the game says it's fine. And we get in here, and then it lifts off. Okay, great, fine, whatever. But my point is, I don't have the void thrusters on. I made sure to turn them off. And so here's my thing. If I hit spacebar, it's supposed to increase the thrust of the thrusters. Now I could understand it not going anywhere. This is my point to that. If they're tapped out and at idle, they're doing too much that they can't sustain or whatever, then I can understand you hitting space and it not doing anything, like you don't go anywhere. I can also understand that if it's not enough, you're going to slowly descend whether you're pushing spacebar or not. I can also understand you slowly descending and you hold the spacebar and then you kind of level off and hover until you let go and then you descend again. But to be idling shows that at least at idle, or maybe even full power, it can sustain the ship's altitude. So if you hit space, at best nothing should happen. Or no, at worst nothing should happen. At best then you lift off. Because if you watch the thrusters, when we get in here, you'll see like the thrusters are firing, but they don't do any more. Okay, then it shouldn't descend though. It's either a glitch or they've got something coded wrong, because it just doesn't physically make any sense. I don't care what anybody says about what it's because of the gravity and all that. It's already fighting gravity, so at worst it just shouldn't go anywhere. But the fact that it descends with spacebar, it's got to be a glitch to me. What I wanted to try though was taking off. Now that I realized that this one had. Oh wait, no, it's not. Hold on. One of these that I lifted off with... Oh, it was this one. Had... Which one's newer? I don't remember which one's the newest copy anymore. Oh, crap. I think this is the newest one, or something. Anyways, so this is off, so let's make sure that with it off, we can actually take off pretty easily. Now, if we go full tilt, we do start descending again, which, again, I'm not too sure how that part works. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. Boom. 0. We're not going anywhere. It's fighting gravity. Now, if I were to... Okay, let's just even leave it at that angle. If you hold W and we're going forward, it's fine. If we're not doing anything, it's fine. If we're going backward, no. Doesn't make any sense. See, like this is 0, and then we start descending. We're increasing our descent rate. Look at this. Like, we're actually increasing our descent rate. It's like they're firing backwards. It doesn't make any sense. The S key and the W key are doing almost the exact same thing. So anyways, I think the ship design is okay. I think there's something flawed with the physics mechanics in it. But yeah, on that note, I'm happy with it. We're going to wrap things up here for this episode, and next episode we might do some detail work and then maybe switch over to survival again and have it build the thing, I'm thinking. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.